Hey, everybody, Steve here, and welcome to day 10 of my journey into crypto. And I'm just really excited because I made it 10 days in. I'm one third of the journey, and I've learned so much in just a short amount of time. In addition to learning this much, I've been ultimately confused and frustrated more than I expected to be. And I say that because it's a testament to how new, how different, how just completely amazing this world is, and I say that from somebody who is comfortable with technology. Naively, I assumed it would be something really easy to pick up. And I think with a good coach at your side, it absolutely would be for me. What I'm finding is that there is so much to explore, and putting the pressure on to do something each day, my expectations were a little bit out of line. I thought I'd be much further ahead. But at the same time, I'm learning in different ways. I'm actually taking some shortcuts, just starting to stack up, and things are starting to click. So that's the long intro, but let's get into today. And I want to talk about some concepts, blockchain, tokens, and crypto. I'll attempt to define some of this, and I'm sure there's somebody who's going to correct me on this. I don't care, but I realize I need to be in a position where, because it's the holidays, I'm expecting I'm going to go be around extended families soon. And somebody's going to ask me, "What have you been up to?" And I'm going to say, "Hey, I've been learning all about crypto." And they're going to say, "I've been curious about that. Can you explain it to me?" And then here I am. I don't know what the heck to say, but I do know about so many of these concepts that make sense in my brain. I need to be able to articulate it as well. So that's my attempt today. It's not going to be 100% correct, and it's going to be overly simplistic, but I do want to use this as practice to help convey some of these terms in technology and concepts. And so let's get into that. Yesterday is where I left off. Tried to do some transfers in Binance. I found out my funds were still locked. That was a surprise at the time, not a surprise now, and it just makes sense. But I've got a couple days left before I can actually move my currency that I purchased out of the central exchange and onto decentralized blockchain networks. And so that's why I figured this would be a good time to start diving into really understanding what the terminology means from a practical point of view, not a theoretical, not a scientific or technological point of view, but a practical point of view. So I really know what's happening. So that's what I'm going to spend the interim between the time where it's locked and when I can actually start using some of these assets. So I put down a few terms that I wanted to dive into. Here they are: blockchain, the idea of currency, tokens. We use coins all the time in exchange, the idea of an NFT, and networks. So I spent a little bit of time going through and doing some research and reading. And one thing I'll convey to you is, if you spend any time in Binance, they have their academy, and it's got tons of articles. They're really well written. They're not overly complicated. They're designed for new learners, intermediate learners, advanced learners. So you can find articles that match every level where you might be at. And it's really helpful to this point. So I highly recommend going to the academy.binance.com. But one thing is really important to understand. I had a question from somebody the other day that had watched some of my videos, and they were making the observation that, with all the fees that you've been talking about, is it really any different than when you work with a bank or a financial institution, with all the fees that they have for moving money around or buying stocks or bonds and all those things? They are similar in the sense that they're charging you a fee to conduct a service. But from at that point, they diverge, because a bank or an institution that manages your funds, they're charging you a fee to manage that on your behalf. And when we get into blockchain, the fees are charged by people who operate this distributed network. And I've got this little graphic up here. These are supposed to be computers, but really what this means is, this idea of a blockchain is basically this giant database, what they call a ledger, that is copied and shared across all these computers across the world. And each time a change is made, they enter some new lines in code. I'm not going to go into the details on that, but those are updated across all of these different machines that are keeping this blockchain up to date. So that's what they mean by decentralized. And the way it's architected is very difficult to take advantage of it or fool it. It's really difficult to hack, although it can be. Different blockchains have been, but the security mechanisms are extremely difficult and they're based off of cryptography, which is why we have cryptocurrency as a term. And I've got this image up here just to show that this idea of a blockchain, there are some relationships in how they write it. So if you look at this top cell on the top left and then go to the right and then down and to the right again, you'll see that this the two letters KP are added, and then the next one takes something, the next one is written, takes an element of the cell before it, and then you can see that each time something new is written, more are added from the previous block. That's what they mean by block. So I'm butchering that, but that's why there is this term block, and they're all chained together. So blockchain, we got this really boring word to describe something that's really powerful. But the main thing is it's decentralized, and all of these machines all over the world store copies of this, and they're all updated. And this is why Ethereum, the blockchain that I've been talking about with all these fees, it's giant. The actual size of that blockchain is huge, and so many people are using it because it can do more than just store information about currency. It's used in a wide variety of applications. It's expensive for these machines to run a transaction. So those are what are causing the transaction fees. And by the way, those machines that are doing all that work to update it, they're doing that work, and those are what they're called miners. I didn't put that in this today, but when you hear somebody doing crypto mining, they have a machine that's basically performing on this distributed network, and they're keeping it up to date. So they're basically earning cryptocurrency for participating in the upkeep. And the big difference there, if you think about the condition that we've been in, which is what people call Web 2.0, if you imagine Facebook, Google, Amazon, these are all centrally organized big data centers. They may have data centers all over the world, but they're centrally organized, owned and operated by Amazon, Facebook, Google, Microsoft. And they have their giant data centers, and then that's what's considered centralized. And then Web 3.0 is decentralized, and that's what all of these machines owned by individuals, companies, conglomerations all over the world are running these. So that's a big difference between Web 2.0 and Web 3.0. So I'm going off script here, but I think that's really interesting. So let's go talk about cryptocurrency, and this is what helps me understand this. So obviously, the term fiat currency is used in this space a lot, and it really just means government-backed, centrally managed currencies that we're all familiar with, like the US dollar, British pound, the euro, and so on and so on. And then we have crypto. It's decentralized because these cryptocurrencies run on top of blockchains. One thing that really helped me understand this, Bitcoin was one of the first cryptocurrencies that came out. And when I thought of cryptocurrency, I immediately thought of Bitcoin. And then when I thought of blockchain, I thought it was a separate technology, but really they're tightly interlinked. And I came to understand that Bitcoin is an application that runs on top of the blockchain, specifically that is designed to manage Bitcoin. That's all it does. It manages Bitcoin. Unlike Ethereum, Ethereum can be used to manage the Ethereum currency, but it is also used to manage contracts, which are basically software applications. So it's managing software applications and a currency. And the software applications can be anything you can imagine. So it's unlimited in the sense of how you can utilize it because it's based off our imagination to write software that gets stored on this blockchain. So again, where I'm at is I look at Bitcoin as an application. It's the one application that runs on top of the blockchain dedicated to Bitcoin, and it manages that currency. And there are literally hundreds of different type of chains out there that have different type of coins, currencies, tokens. So let's get into that and figure out what in the heck is tokens and coins. So the way I think about it, Bitcoin, Ethereum are all forms of currency, and the coins are virtual. And these are tokens that can be used in ways similar to normal currency, so we can trade them, exchange them for value. But coins are a form of token. It's just we use the word coin because it It helps us understand that this is a unit of value that we can use to buy something, to trade for something, etc. So I always wonder, are all coins tokens? I think the answer is yes. And I know that all tokens are not coins because tokens can be so much more. So going back to the idea the example I used earlier, Bitcoin is an application that runs on the Bitcoin blockchain, and each Bitcoin is, a unique token. That's how that blockchain works. And with Ethereum, tokens can be Ethereum coins. That's what they can represent. They can also represent this idea of smart contracts or bits of software code, which define something unique. And that token can represent a unique bit of art. It can represent a unique bit of music. It can represent literally hundreds of things that just about anything we can think about. And people create coins or other type of I don't like to call it currencies, but they in a way they are. They let's call them tokens slash coins, but they're used for different purposes. So we use dollars and cents to buy things everywhere in the United States, but you may just have a token that's given to you that can only be used for one thing. And that might be to indicate that you are a member of a club, or here's a token that distinguishes you, that you own something, and that token is unique and it's allocated and associated with a piece of art. So that helps me. I hope it helps you, but I'm always curious about how people explain these type of things and how they interpret it. And then here's this other really important part, because when we talk about tokens, there's fungible and non-fungible. And it's kind of a funny word, but non-fungible is each token is unique, and there's this term called immutable. It can never change. So this is where if we have a piece of art or if we have a piece of music and it's been tokenized, you can almost think of it, it's got this really long serial number attached to it, and that attachment can never be broken. And that the really, really long serial number is stored on a blockchain, and it happens to be associated with somebody's wallet. So that's what makes NFTs, non-fungible tokens, unique, is because they can be assigned to a piece of art. I went over that already, but they can be assigned to things and they can be linked to them. And now there is proof of ownership and proof that it's unique. It could be one of 10, it could be one of one, but that's a really interesting and powerful idea. And then fungible tokens, this really helped me understand. Fungible tokens are, I think, it's kind of like pennies. If you have a jar of pennies, each penny is a coin. They're worth something. It's a token, but they're fungible, meaning that one penny is the same as the other. So although each physically is unique, we don't treat them as unique objects. We treat them as one is equivalent to the other in terms of value. So those are fungible tokens. And that's a big difference between a currency type token and a non-fungible token, which could be assigned to something very unique. And then finally, networks. And this is something that's been in my head for a while. I don't know if this is accurate, but I've been struggling with getting my crypto assets out of Binance and Coinbase. And I have to wait, of course. These central networks are places where you can buy and sell. So that's on my little picture here. That's on this side of the river. That's where the central exchanges live. You can buy cryptocurrency with US dollars or any type of fiat currency. You can buy and sell crypto on this side. But if you want to cross the river into crypto land, where everything is on chain, decentralized, you really can't bring US dollars with you because they don't have a way to have a unique signature attached to them. They're not tokenized. So they can't go across the river. But you can take all these other coins that you bought here, all these crypto coins, cryptocurrencies, you can take them across the river, and then you can do things with them. You can trade them with other people who want those, and you can use trading apps to do that. So that's what are called decentralized apps, or dApps. And there are marketplaces like OpenSea.io where you can buy things. So that's what kind of made sense to me, is I'm still on this side of the river. I can't move anything over until I go through this dumb little waiting period. But once I'm done, I can take my cryptocurrency over the river and then I have to figure out how to navigate. So that's what we'll get into next. But that's what I want to share today. I don't know if this is as accurate as it needs to be, but I hope it makes sense to you. And I'll follow up tomorrow with a little bit more of what I can share after my research about how to move things on different type of networks and things like that. So that's another part of what I'm thinking about is I've got these crypto assets. I want to move them onto a chain. I don't want to pay a bunch of transactional fees. And I know that once I go from this side of the river, there's other places where I can exchange one type of crypto asset for another. So maybe this is what I'm thinking about. Maybe it doesn't make sense to buy all different kinds of crypto over here. Maybe I should buy one type on the central exchange that is really easy and cheap to move across this river. And then once I get over here, I'm in a decentralized area where I can then trade those coins, that one kind I have, into multiple different kinds, and then I can move them around. So that's what I'm thinking about, and we'll find out if I'm right. All right, that's it for today. Thank you for joining me. I hope this is helpful. And if you know more than me on any of this stuff, let me know. I'd like to figure out the best way to talk about this and explain it to people who don't know about this. All right, take care.